Hello everybody, Kane here and welcome to another video of Art of Conquest. In this one we're gonna talk about dragons. So before that I have to let you know I still have a cold, I still cough a little bit. So if I don't notice it and I don't delete it from the video, I do apologize for that. Now that aside, the dragon is probably the single most important unit on your field. This dragon dies and you're likely gonna lose the battle in the next few seconds. And by lose the battle, I mean you're gonna have your heroes or your army start dropping like flies. And that is why this particular unit has to be alive or kept alive for as long as possible. So how you can do that? The first things first, we have Armory, probably one of the more overpowered features in terms of resistances. So as you can see, my dragon has 98.3 resistance. What this means is that it's not going to reduce all the damage that the dragon takes by almost 100%. No. I do believe the dragon had 50, 60, or 70% resistances outright. And this particular percentage, increased that value up above 90% at the very least, maybe 95 or so, and a few other features even increased it above that. And the dragon probably has resistances close to 98 or 99 and is also taking a lot less damage. So another feature is the dragon's ascension on stage 3. Dragon takes 30% less damage from troops and heroes. Now, when I received it, the dragon started taking a lot less damage. Now, I'm not sure if this is like a true percentage or it does add to the resistance values or stuff like that. These things are incredibly hard to test. However, I got this and I noticed a pretty huge decrease in terms of the dragon's damage taken. Like the dragon started tanking a lot more. So bear in mind that my dragon is pretty decked out. The other thing that we have is the abilities. So one of them is greater dragon scale heart. And then we have scales from every dragon that you have. So Jade has its own scale as well with an additional buff. Ruby has one with an additional buff as well, reduces the damage taken by 25%, etc. And then we have particular abilities like Greater Void Eater, which grants friendly units resistances. We have, say, Noble Blood, which also grants resistances and all that kind of stuff. Probably also helps out the dragon, but these things, again, are hard to test. I have no clue how they kind of affect it, you know. The other thing is the stats on the dragon, right? Now, this is probably for the min-maxers out there who really want to go down to the itty-bitty numbers to even make it like the best thing that you can actually have. So personally, I have 5, 7, 4, 4. So I got only 2 10x's on this dragon. Previously, I had, I think, 4 10x's. But then I didn't have any dragon eggs. I wasn't getting any dragon eggs. So I scrapped my main dragon to have this perfect Azure dragon. So how can you do it? First things first. You hatch a dragon. You go into abilities. And you learn all of the abilities that you want to have on your dragon. Then you exit and you don't touch this dragon and you keep him here. The next thing you do is you go onto the lair, you deploy this dragon that you want to level, and you go 10x's and you just straight up keep leveling your dragon until you hit a 10x 4 or 5 times. If you don't, you scrap the dragon and you do it again. Yes, it's gonna take you an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to actually be able to get that. Maybe faster if you're luckier. I'm not entirely sure, but eventually you're gonna manage at the very least 4 or 5 of 10x's to level 65. So you're gonna have to have a lot of these dragon glasses as well. After you do that, and after you finish this, go to lair, equip your main dragon, so in any case you don't accidentally mess it all up. Then you go onto the hatchery, you click train, and you put your main dragon into the dragon that had those stats upgraded. And then you have a dragon which is exact same level with all of those 10x's already done. And the next thing that you would do is you go onto the lair and you release your dragon and put the greater abilities on your current dragon. And then you're gonna have a few 10x's right here on your main dragon with a lot more energy and all of that kind of stuff. That's how you usually do the min-max in terms of the stats. I'm not sure if many people knew, but it's here if you need it. The other thing is the Draconic. Now, I have a variety of people watching my videos. So, before we get into the Draconic, people want to know tips of how to even upgrade this. So, for early game, I would go Affliction 109 first, just so you would get this death delay by 2 seconds. That means your heroes are also going to get it, because it says all friendly units, meaning heroes as well. So it's pretty friggin' crucial, because heroes, if they die like flies, you're not gonna win any PvP whatsoever, even survive in terms of city defense or literally anything in the game. You really want this first at the current stage in the game. After that, you want protection to 109. And after that, destruction. And after that, it's a choice which one of these two you want to level. Now, the thing is, when I played this game, the destruction one posed a ton of value. Now the dragon does no damage, and now mages literally destroy everything, even in the early game. Like the dragon damage era, I think it's finished and it's no longer there. Like it's no longer existent. So focusing on destruction is not really that good. Aside from that, once you hit all 109, then 159, you are gonna unlock the Awakening. So how can you upgrade this? You upgrade this by going 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, 30, 30, 30. And I think when you slowly start leveling 1 to 40, eventually you can reset all of them and get 140 for events. I am not certain if 140 is actually good for PvP. I tried it and it was sort of a maybe 50-50 or so. You have to test that yourself, whether or not that will benefit you or not. I tested it around and eventually I just swapped to 30, 30, 30 and just kept doing one of them to 40. Perhaps you could try protection as well, or affliction might, give you both the HP and attack. It's hard to say. I mean, metas change, heroes change, army changes. Very hard to predict what can happen in the future or even now, depending on what kind of breakthroughs you have. So for some people, it can help out. For the others, it can actually mess them over. So you have to test these particular things yourself, whether or not it's beneficial for you. Personally, I would go for protection first. Then I would go for, I think, destruction, because it's 70% HP, 70% attack, so you got that clear 50-50. And then I would go affliction. I know some people go protection and then affliction, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. It's a way that you could do it as well, but again, I'm not really sure about that. Aside from that, I suppose, yeah, that's like the generic most way to upgrade your dragons, to have like a pretty, I suppose, huge machine of a beast. Now, even I don't have like huge Draconic Awakening, but my dragon does provide a lot, and the second this dragon dies, the battle is pretty much close to over. So, the other thing that I want to talk about is the types of dragons. So, for example, the current one that I have is an Azure Dragon, and these are the abilities that I have. So, I have only 2 Greaters currently, so you can see only 2 Greaters. I have Arcane Blessing because I do believe it buffs the Noble Blood to recover more HP. I'm not sure on that because it's recover, not actually healing. And it has, I suppose, another buff that's upgrading, well, like sub buff or whatever you want to call it, reduces dragon ability cooldowns by 3 seconds. This is very important for the Aura Blast. Why it's important? It's because if you don't have this particular ability, the dragon will go like basic attack, Aura Blast, basic attack, Aura Blast. If you have this ability, the dragon will just do Aura Blast, Aura Blast, Aura Blast, meaning you're gonna debuff more units on the field, or if a dragon randomly turns sideways, it will debuff more army, more units, etc., etc. But the basic attack is pretty much just gonna be pushing units a little bit back. And if it's pushing units, some damage can actually be missed by the mages, because you have to keep in mind, like, Valerie's damage goes usually in one direction. I think it really depends, because some of her balls chase targets, some of hers don't. Some other auto attacks chase targets, some of them don't. Magic damage that you do also, well, area damage rather, doesn't chase targets, so the dragon would push the targets away from some area damage. Personally, I want this buff to actually proc on more units, so I combine it with this. And then, of course, if you add Swell as well, it also combines with this. So this is like a trio of spells, or a triangle of spells, that actually work together pretty well. What does this Swell do? It reduces the magic resistance of enemies struck by the wave. So when you cast Aura Blast, the Swell also procs, because it says releases a wave of magic when abilities are cast. So there are dragons that can actually use this better. So we're going to talk about in just a second. And the other abilities, as you can see, as explained before, Hero Pred is self-explanatory for heroes to take more damage. And this particular ability, because I don't have anything else to put on the dragon, if I get another greater ability, I literally just swap this straight up, no, decisions needed to be made. Aside from that, other dragons, so we can talk about, one moment, even the Ruby Dragon. So we deploy the Ruby Dragon abilities. What abilities do I want to put on him? So on the other dragon, we had scales. So on this one, we also want the scales. Now, for a Ruby Dragon in particular, it is able to proc the magic swell twice instead of one time as any other dragon. The thing about that is, because, again, you have to take into consideration, it says releases a wave of magic when abilities are cast. So if you have Aura Blast and you cast it, it procs, as well as the Ruby Dragon is the only dragon that can cast an ability with its scales. And this particular ability does not have a, say, channel animation or an auto attack animation or whatever you want to call it. It does have an animation, but the dragon doesn't have to be in it, if you understand what I mean. So the dragon can be mid Aura Blast, animation of casting it, and still proc this, right? So it can be Aura Blast and Magic Swell procs as well. And in the middle of that Aura Blast, the dragon can do Incendiary Scales and also proc the Magic Swell at the same time. Basically, you're able to proc Magic Swell twice as more with the Ruby Dragon than you would be able with any other dragon. That is why quite a lot of people are using Ruby Dragons, just to reduce a ton of resistances. And it could be meta in the very near future, because this one says magic resistance, but when you awaken the dragon, it says reducing the physical and magic resistance, right? Which means pretty much the dragon casting Aura Blast and this scales and this swell as well can actually remove a ton of resistances from the enemy. And that's why you see even some players in high tier gameplay also use rubbies. Now there are, differences for other dragons as well. Like for example, Onyx, you want to go for scales. In some cases, if you don't have other abilities, you want to go for black holes as well. For Jade, in particular, you want the Tranquility, you want the Call of the Wild, I believe. And then if you still have another ability, you can go for Scales as well, or Rebirth. The Jade Dragon has a lot more options to actually pick from than majority of the other dragons. Other dragons is just pretty generic and specific. For Jade Dragon, Tranquility, and of course the Call of the Wild, and potentially even the Scales as well. But the first two are kind of more important. And the other abilities should kind of be generic across many more dragons, like the Arcane Blessing, the Swell if you have Aura Blast, and that's like pretty much, I mean, Hero Pred is also kind of self-explanatory. Like for PvP, if you want to do PvP, you have to have this, because if you don't debuff the enemy with all of these stats, like even like attack speed, like doing more damage on them, even not reducing their damage or not doing more damage, essentially the enemy heroes become even more powerful than they actually would be with against this particular ability. Because I mean, the PvP has a pretty clear difference of you having this and you not having this. So I don't know, it's for you to decide. Aside from that, there are PvE dragons as well, in terms of different dragons. So for example, I have a research dragon at the moment, which, as you can see, has a particular ability called Blessed Soul Seal. Because this is a supreme dragon, increases damage dealt to enemy undead units by 40%. Now, bear in mind that the True Shot Supreme Dragon is actually better. But the thing is, out of like 15 Supreme Dragons, I still did not get it, so I don't have anything for show. But there is an ability that would be a Supreme True Shot Aura, and it buffs a lot of damage of the archers. It buffs damage to Overlord units for like the damage events like Rhino Rampage, Nightfire, etc. That should be your PvE dragon. And this could just be a side dragon for like Crisis Prophecy, Purify, or any other event like that. Aside from that, I suppose, yeah, I don't know if there's anything much more to cover. Aside from that, yeah, pretty much watch the abilities. You also want, at the very least, a couple of graters as well. And if you have a choice to select the graters, I would highly suggest the Dragon Scale Heart, because it's gonna make your dragon a lot more tankier. And then you have a choice by either buffing all units to do more damage on the enemy with Aura Blast, but it requires those units to be hit with this ability. Or you can go Draconic Blessing, like buffing the archers, or etc, etc. Personally, since everything on my field revolves around mages, this sort of a combo for me is better than any other. But it depends what kind of state in the game you are and what kind of buffs you really require. There are a lot of nuances. But I would value these two a little bit more above others. And if I was able to choose a third ability, I would go for Draconic Blessing. That would buff the archers to do more damage, because that also helps in events. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Aside from that, since we have this event right now, we can talk a little bit about it. Usually when they release now these pay-to-win wheels for Awaken abilities, apparently these abilities are actually broken. The last one had a ton of healing received reductions and like debuffs. I think the entire ability had like 4 stats that it was increasing or decreasing or doing. So this one also is increasing attack speed, I believe, damage dealt, and then if the I suppose dragon casts an ability, it procs a wave, and if archers are near the dragon, which has this ability from being close to the dragon at the beginning, it enables them to do a portion of max HP. I think it was 2.5% at level 1. Somebody showed me that ability. So I'm not sure which one of those stats are going to be increased by the level and stuff like that, and how much. But by the wording of those abilities, man, these friggin' abilities are friggin' broken in the text. However, nobody at the making of this video really knows how powerful this one is. So basically, I do believe that in pay-to-win wheels right now, they're just gonna release incredibly broken abilities, and some way in the future we're gonna be able to get them. I don't know how, but someday probably this stuff will be accessible. But aside from that, I'm already losing my voice. This is kind of the end of the video. Anyways, as always, if you learned something new, do let me know in the comments down below, as well as do hit that subscribe button. It would help me out a lot. As well as if you would wish to support me more than just watching my videos, I have made a Patreon page where you would be able to do just that. In return, I would be able to help you out more individually in terms of events, PvP formations, and stuff like that. As well as I would like to thank all of my patrons for the support. I really appreciate it for your subscriptions. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching, take care, and stay safe out there.